What a bunch of junk. Seriously, it's just junk. But let's talk about it in the context of SHTF and why I am getting rid of my junk. YouTube Vertical Stacker with another video. In this video, I want to talk about why I'm looking at getting rid of my junk silver. When I first started stacking this stuff, I bought into the theory of, well, it might come in handy in an SHTF situation. We all know what that stands for. And I've watched a lot of videos. I mean, a lot of videos on it. And I've just come to the conclusion that I'm not all that certain that this would really have a lot of value in an SHTF situation. And I'll explain why. I think there are other things that would possibly be much more valuable. And I also think there's a bit of a danger in having this. And I'll explain that as well. When we think about the SHTF situation, we always tend to think of an economic collapse or civil war or any number of things that could happen in our society, and certainly that have happened in many countries, including our own, in years past. But the one thing that's constant is when there's a collapse or a war or anything like that, there is always some sort of a restructuring of the financial sector. And when I say financial sector, I mean of the economy, right? What are the means of trade? What are the means of buying and selling goods post-Civil War, post-apocalyptic issues that might come up post-SHTF? And I suggest, and I would submit, that there's a lot of people that won't recognize this for what it really is. 90% silver composition U.S. coinage. And that this, at least as of today, has a value of about $4.60, or I don't know what these are going for right now, probably about $1.60 or $1.80 or something like that. So, in my mind, I'm going to have $9 worth of silver and $4.60 worth of silver and $1.70 worth of silver. And I'm going to say, hey, look, I've got about $15 worth of silver here. I want to trade this for $15 worth of goods or services. The problem is the person on the receiving end is going to look at this and say, well, that's nice, but I look at that as 50 cents or 85 cents, and frankly, the currency doesn't even either exist anymore or it doesn't have any value to me. What has value to me would be food or water or maybe cigarettes or booze or maybe ammunition or some other type of security feature or security component. So I've had to think about this quite a bit, and I've often wondered, am I stacking hundreds of pounds of this stuff for naught? And I've come to the conclusion that most likely I am. And I know not everybody's going to agree with me, and people might think I'm playing the fool, but at the end of the day, I just am not convinced that this, let alone perhaps even the gold and silver bullion that I have, is ever going to really serve as any meaningful way to barter. Now it may, and I might be totally wrong, but if I had to think about it, I have to think that regular gold bullion and regular silver bullion is more likely than not going to win the day over this type of stuff. Even though this is highly recognizable, even though this is highly divisible, if there's an economic collapse particularly, then the only value in these are going to be the silver content, right? And not everybody is going to recognize the silver content. Whereas if you have a bullion round, I don't know if I have one here, I gotta dig deep, bear with me. If you have a bullion round, for example, an American Silver Eagle, or I gotta get my tools out here to get these. If you have an American Silver Eagle, or a gold eagle, something that's also very recognizable, it states right on there what it is, right? This is an ounce of fine silver, and anyone at least that can read is going to know what this is. Now, obviously, there's a way to, if you want to put your life in danger, maybe try bartering these that are not real silver, but that's a topic for another day, and I certainly am not recommending that, because you might wind up dead. Of course, in an SHTF situation, you might end up dead anyway. So have fun, right? But think about it. Food and water, defense mechanisms, sources for protection, shelter, clothing. I really look at, even though I'm not a smoker and I don't drink alcohol, I think in high stress situations, what is the one thing that people frequently turn to? It's their vices. It's their vices. It's smoking, or it's drinking, or maybe some other type of illicit drug. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out and stockpile a bunch of illegal drugs. No, but I would feel a little silly walking into a store and buying a few cartons of cigarettes, but maybe that would be worth more in an SHTF situation than this. Think about it. When you're bartering for something, bartering for goods or services, you want to have as a medium of exchange something that others are going to not only recognize for its value, but have a demand for. I'm just not convinced that this is it, folks. I'm really not. And I want you to disagree with me, because I would really like to keep this, but I'm strongly considering getting rid of my 90% constitutional silver. There you go. I said it. I know. Originally it came out as junk, right? And I'm sure it made a few people bristle. Now the nomenclature is true. It's constitutional silver. But I'm still not convinced. So I need some convincing. Maybe point me to some other videos that will help me educate myself more on why I might need this constitutional silver. Well, I don't know. Consider this. You are in an SHTF situation and you want to go to some sort of a centralized location, right? And you have a lot of your constitutional silver, or maybe you have gold or silver bullion. Maybe you have a roll of silver eagles like this, okay? And you go and you need to buy some bread, or you need to buy some fruits or vegetables or anything of substance that gives you sustenance. And you whip out to that shopkeeper or to your supposedly, confidential source some constitutional silver and say, hey, here's a $27 worth of constitutional silver. Now that person might take it, or that person might say, well, what else you got? Because unless I can find someone else to turn this over to in an exchange for barter for goods or services, then it's really not worth anything. But if you have some cigarettes, maybe I'll trade you my bread or some fruits and vegetables that I've been able to grow or obtain for those cigarettes, or maybe for booze. But systems of barter are really important. Now, look, I'm not ignorant to the fact that silver and gold have been around for a long time. They have survived world wars, pandemics, economic collapses, droughts, famines, you name it. They have survived all of that, and they hold value. Of course, that value ebbs and flows, right? But if you consider they held value through ancient Rome. We are still finding today caches of bronze and silver and copper and gold coins, many of which have numismatic value, which again I think is pointless in an SHTF situation, but they also retain some of the composition value of gold and silver. Look at the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayas, all of those mighty civilizations that bartered with gold and silver and other types of precious gemstones, things like that. Well, I I'm not sure I'd want to walk around or lug around a whole bunch of this stuff. Wouldn't a carton of cigarettes be much, much lighter than lugging around a bunch of silver, constitutional, or bullion? I don't know. I have my doubts, but I am open to your thoughts on this. I am open to a good, healthy debate. Certainly, things could happen in our country, but remember, our dollar isn't even backed by gold anymore, right? I do see kind of our society becoming very tribalistic. We have, it almost reminds me of the Hunger Games a little bit, for those of you that are familiar with that. It's, you know, this tribe versus that tribe. It's, to a certain extent, it's human nature. I look at what's going on in our society right now. Like-minded people are starting to congregate with other like-minded people. Well, that's a precursor to something that can be pretty ugly. And I'm not advocating it, but I am certainly suggesting that there's some interesting times ahead. Well, again, just going back to my example of going to the marketplace, think about that. You go and the shopkeeper who has the goods or the services that you're looking for says, yeah, okay, I'll take these in trade. And you get your stuff and you turn around and you leave. More likely than not, because again, human nature in an SHTF situation is going to be what? Survival, right? Survival at all costs. And to a certain extent, I think the whole humanistic, hey, live and let live is gone. It is survive at all costs. Don't be surprised if someone is going to be tailing you back to your shelter and they're going to conk you over the head, kill you, rob you, beat you, maim you, whatever they're going to do to get the shiny, to get the stuff. Now, they could do the same thing with cigarettes and same thing with alcohol or any type of drug or any type of good or service, but I just think having the shiny metal makes you even a bigger target, especially if you're out flashing it around. So I think there's a lot more thought that needs to go into what we would do with this and how we would do it in an SHTF situation. I'm sure there's some videos out there that talk about what we could do, but I know for sure the folks that are out there, and some of you may be watching the video right now, folks that are out there that are relying heavily on this stuff, along with your gold and silver bullion for barter and trade, have you really thought it through? Have you really thought, okay, how am I going to find other like-minded people that are willing to accept this in trade for goods and services? I'm just not certain that I want to mess with that, and I would rather have something much easier in my mind to barter with, and that is, you know, booze, cigarettes, food, water, those things that are vices and those things that are key for survival. This, I just don't think is key for survival in an SHTF situation. Prove me wrong. Let's talk about it. Vertical Stacker, I hope you stay safe. Till next time.